during the fallout or the way you were speaking out, do you feel like that kind of, and I know this is a stupid question, but I want to actually hear it from you, is why they kind of try to remove you from the history books a little bit? Or do you feel like, yeah, okay.
Oh, absolutely. They don't want to talk about that stuff. They don't want, that's kind of a black eye for them in the public realm. And a lot of fight fans don't even know some of that stuff goes on behind the scenes. Now the ones that are really savvy and have tuned in, they know what's going on. But there's a whole bunch of them that don't know what's going on, and certainly not something that the UFC wants to advertise. Yeah. There's fighters that aren't happy with the way they're being paid or the way they're being traded, or these restrictive contracts and the lack of transparency in our sport. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
I know, like, we went to a few fights with Rampage, and they were showing a lot of highlights during your era, and I didn't see you up there either.
Yeah, they don't show me much. Recently they've been showing me getting choked out by John Jones, but
yeah, those are the ones they like to show.
Yeah,
that's great.
I never cared.
Does that upset you?
No, I don't care. You know, I don't care. You know, it's part of it. Shit, if I'm gonna be upset about it, I should never let it happen. But you know, I never started fighting to be famous, because when I started, it wasn't popular. So I don't care. Bellator did the same thing to me. I don't care. Are you in the Hall of Fame?
I am in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, 06, when a bunch of this stuff started.
Oh, okay. The
first season of The Ultimate Fighter, I stepped out again. I retired for a little while there because of the divorce and just not feeling like myself. And they inducted me into the Hall of Fame there. They're probably regretting that now. Yeah. But it is what it is.
What's so good about being in the Hall of Fame, though? Is there anything? I
mean, it's just recognition. You're being recognized for what you contributed to that brand, to the UFC, and you know that there are a lot of guys that should be in there.
Yeah,
Frank Shamrock. There's a whole bunch of them that have been left out.
Yeah, when we went to the UFC here in Anaheim, they inducted Vanderlei Silva, and a lot of my friends and fans like, man, they got Vanderlei. He's an outsider from Pride. I'm like, actually, he's not. He was in the UFC first, but they probably don't remember that part of the UFC. And they was like, you should be in there. But you know, they never called me to be in there. But I ain't gonna cry about it.
Yeah, I think you should be in there. There's no doubt in my mind you should be in there.
Well, you know, I really didn't fight in the UFC that long, and I had a short run, so it's for me, it's no big deal.
No, but it's like what he said, bro. Look at what you did for the sport. Come on. Like, you were like the first guy to come out swinging and putting on characters and personas. Like, you transpired culture.
If Pride had a Hall of Fame, I would want to be in that. I had a lot of love for Pride.
But they own Pride. They own all the footage. They own everything. No. What is it true that you left the UFC at one point because they wouldn't fight Fedor? They wouldn't sign Fedor, and that was like your dream fight?
That was all that was going on in 06, 07.
Same thing. So that is true.
Yeah.
So what did you do? You asked
look, most of the rankings had him as the #1 ranked guy in the world. He was fighting for Pride and had pretty much beaten everybody at that time. And I was ranked #2 as the heavyweight champion in the UFC. And I'm like, well, that's the guy I want to fight. If you want to be the best in the world, you got to beat the best in the world. So I was pursuing that fight, and they couldn't make it happen. It came down to a co-promotion. It wasn't about money. They reached out to M1 Global. They started negotiations. They came up with an amount, but M1 said, "Oh, but we want a co-promotion," and the UFC said, we ain't putting you over. We want to sign him to a fight, and we want him to fight Couture, but and this is the money, but we won't do a co-promotion with M1 Global. So the deal was off. So then Mark Cuban steps up, wants to help me find a way to make that fight happen through American Airlines Arena and all his connections and all of that.
Mark Cuban?
Yeah. Oh, and that's when things went really south with the UFC. I literally resigned my title and said, hey, this is the fight I want. You guys aren't going to make it happen. I know you're not telling me the truth. You're not being honest with me. So I stepped away and tried to find a way to make that fight happen.
And what
spent a lot of the injunctions and spending a lot of money on lawyers and other crap in my 40s. Like, man, the clock's ticking. I don't have all that much time to keep playing around with this one fight to make this one fight happen. So ultimately stepped away from that idea and just said, hey, it's not going to happen. Let's go back to fighting. I got some time left, and that ultimately led into the Brock fight.